Chapter 2, Lesson 7, Percent of a number. Our content target, students will understand to find the percent of a number. The language target, students will demonstrate their understanding of percents by examining the proper way to find the percent of a number. Finding a percent of a number, you can use fractions and decimals to find the percent of a number. To find the percent of a number, write the percent as a fraction with the denominator of 100, then multiply the fraction by the number. We will today be using the method cross multiply and divide. Opposite numerator times the opposite numerator, then we're going to divide by the only number left. So when we look at example number 1, it says refer to the circle. Suppose there are 300 students at your York Middle School. Find the number of students who have cheese as a snack. So when we look at our diagram, we're looking for cheese. Here it says that cheese is at 15%. Well, that's 15% as a fraction is 15 over 100. We're going to use 300 middle school students as my total. So to solve for our problem today, we're going to cross multiply. I'm going to take 300, the opposite denominator, times the opposite numerator. So I have 300 times 15. So I use my calculator. 300 times, 300 times 15 is 4,500, and we're going to divide that by the only number that's left. So I'm going to divide that by 100. If I go to my calculator, I take that number and divide by 100, which is 45 students. If I look at my got it problem, it says find the number of students at York Middle School that have chips as a snack. So we are looking at how many students like chips as a snack. So I go back to my wheel. I look for chips. Chips is here. That is at 18%. So that's 18% of those students. So 18% as a fraction is 18 over 100. There were 300 students in the total school. To define how many enjoyed chips, I multiply the denominator, 300, times the numerator, which is 18. So 300 times 18. And that's 5,400. And I'm going to divide that by the only number that I have left, which is 100. So I have 5,400 divided by 100. So I go to my calculator, I divide that by 100, and my answer is 54 students enjoyed chips. Percents greater than 100 or less than 1. Again, we're going to choose whether to write our percent as a fraction or as a decimal based on the problem. Again, we're going to use our cross multiply and divide method. That opposite denominator times the opposite numerator, then divide by the only number left. Remember that of means total or your denominator. So find 145% of 320. So I write this out as 145 over 100, that's its percent. Of tells me to multiply. 320 is my denominator. Of tells me that this number is my denominator. So I cross multiply. 320 times 145. $320 times 145 is 46,400. And again, I'm going to divide that by the only number that I have left, which is 100. So I go back to my calculator, I use that same number, go divide by 100, and I get 464 is 145% of 320. So again, here's another percent that's greater than 100. 220% of 65. So 220% as a fraction is 220 over 100. Percents are always over 100. Of tells me to multiply 65. Whenever I see the word of, that tells me that this number is my denominator. So 65 is my denominator. So to find, I take 65 times 220, opposite denominator times opposite numerator, 220 times 65 is 100, is 14,300. I take that number and I divide it by the only number I have left, which is 100. And if I divide by 100, I get 143. Notice that when we divide by 100, the two zeros can cancel each other out, being left with 143. The last one is finding 25 hundredths percent of 58. So what I'm going to do as a decimal, I'm simply going to write that number, 0.25, as my numerator over 100. I know it's silly that we have a decimal on top as my numerator, but for this purpose, we're going to use it. Of tells me to multiply. It also tells me that this number is my denominator. So again, I'm going to cross multiply. Opposite denominator times opposite numerator. Now remember that this is decimal. So 0.25 times 58, which is 14.5. So now I'm going to divide that number by the only number I have left, which is 100. So 14.5 divided by 100. I divide that by 100, and I get 0.145. Another trick when you're dividing by 100, know when you divide by 100, you can simply move your decimal backwards 2 places as well.